Good evening, Nigeria. Welcome to TVC News Politics on Sunday. I am Femi Akonde. Well, after 6 months of political turbulence, suspended Rivers State Governor Similaye Fubara has returned to his position as governor, and this marks a crucial turning point in the state's leadership dynamics and political atmosphere. Governor Similaye Fubara's suspension created a leadership vacuum and heightened political tension in the oil-rich Rivers State. Now with his resumption, expectations are high and challenges lie ahead. Observers say the governor will need to balance reconciliation with decisive leadership. His 6-month absence has left lingering questions about governance, state developmental projects, and the unity among political stakeholders. Analysts warn that Fubara's first days back in office will be critical. He is expected to demonstrate a strong leadership, particularly prioritizing peace building and restoring public trust, also advancing policies that address pressing socioeconomic issues. But beyond rhetorics, his ability to rebuild alliances within the political class while also delivering tangible dividends of democracy to the people of Rivers State will determine his success. Well, to help deepen the conversation on the return of Governor Fubara is Obiaruko Undukwe. She is the president, Citizens Quest for Truth Initiative. Hello, madam. It's good to see you again.
Wow, thank you, Femi Akonde. It's been a while. Good to have you back.
Yes, indeed. And well, thankfully, Governor Fubara is back after a 6-month suspension. But, let's get straight into it. This has generated so much controversy, some on the part of President Tinubu declaring the state of emergency. Some people are talking about the legality or constitutionality of this emergency rule. But, it's come and it's gone. It's over now. But let's talk about the way forward now. What's next? All the issues that forced the president to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State. Is it safe to say that all of that has gone away and, normalcy has returned to Rivers State?
Well, the important thing is that democratic structure has been restored and the state of emergency, lifted, and then the governor, his deputy, and then the state assembly has elected. They are all back, to keep putting the state on the front. So the issue here is what the governor intends to do. Like you rightly asked, the issues that led to the declaration of the state of emergency, can we say that they've all been rested and all that? Well, you can say that even for the 6 months period, there were really no tension, no noise, no unnecessary dissent, apart from a few voices of dissent. Of course, the conversation was still on and people had the right to, keep, talking. But the important thing is what the key players are doing and what they did behind the scene before now. And of course, from the information made available to us, we understand that they came to a reconciliation, to a truce, and then both parties even had to speak to their supporters to down their tools and sheet their swords for peace and then so for the state to move forward. So I think that the governor, having experienced these challenges even before the declaration of state of emergency, I'm sure he will do better now. He's more experienced, more informed, and probably he's ready to keep get things working in the state. Don't forget that they were all in the same party. They were all part and parts of the arrangement to bring him, in as governor and his deputy, as well as the state assembly. So there's nothing wrong if they had issues and now they decide to come together to work. Well, people will definitely pick holes with whatever he is doing or what they are doing. People, some persons don't seem to be comfortable with it because when two elephants fight, it's not about the grass suffering now. It's about some persons taking advantage of the situation, to position themselves. So now that peace has returned, now that there's truce and there's reconciliation, well, definitely those persons will not be happy. But there are others who probably felt left out, within the period of the crisis, having worked so hard to put in this government. So I'm sure they are the ones who are happy now that they can be part of the system again. Well, the most important thing is for the governor to catch up with what he's lost. Even before the state of emergency, you can see there was so much tension, division between the legislature and the executive. And I think now that all parties, all persons have learned their lessons, including the state assembly. Yeah, so we hope to see a better River State.
Yes, indeed. We all hope to see a better River State. But, let's talk about what was lost. Within these 6 months, some people have said that, a lot of jobs were lost. But again, the argument will be which jobs? Is it the jobs of the political office holders, or are these real-time jobs for citizens? But a lot was lost. Nothing was happening in the state. Yes, there was a sole administrator, but some people will say he did not do anything. Developmental projects were stalled. He was just paying salaries. Nothing really happened in the state. Help us understand, because you've been very consistent on this issue of River State. So help us understand the kind of loss that have been incurred within these 6 months of Fubara suspension.
Well, definitely there will be some losses here and there. In every war situation, you don't even expect that there will be any meaningful development. That's the way I want to describe it, because there was a serious challenge. And then, of course, something had to be done. It was, for me, the sole administrator was just an interventionist person there. He was just there to intervene, to bridge whatever challenges. And then when the situation is relaxed, they can continue. Now, let me also tell you, for those who say jobs were lost, yes, jobs could be lost, but the civil servants continue to do their job and they were paid adequately. In fact, the other day, they gave an award to the sole administrator, thanking him for being, one of the best they've ever had. So that's by the way. Then for those who felt that jobs were lost, maybe contractors, but don't forget that some were still on site until probably when they had challenges with funding, because the the budget, there was no budget like the Supreme Court said. And then, of course, there needed to be another budget, which the president presented to the National Assembly. And, of course, it wasn't going to be easy to get that out and get the funding. So maybe some contractors were not paid and some had to leave the site and all that. So, of course, that delayed the process. But let me also tell you, when there's crisis, when there's a fight, you do not expect that these things will be normal. There will always be an abnormal situation. So, for me, I think that yes, those who felt that, like political appointees who felt they lost their jobs, it's natural. There's no way they'll be happy. But don't forget that even if the governor was there, it's also possible that he may have also dropped some of them, and appointed new people. So there's nothing that says that once you appoint people that you don't have the right to fire. You can hire and fire at any time. And then again, there were people that were also appointed within this period, and some of them actually discharged their duties well, while some failed. As normal, it's always the case, even where you have a full democratic structure, so it's not always perfect. So, but whatever they may have lost within the 6 months period, I think that the proper thing is to get things done right. Don't forget, it's not just about President Tinubu's declaration of state of emergency. The Supreme Court spoke loud and clear that there was no governors and no government in River State. There was no budget in River State. Nothing was happening. So the important thing now is that this whole thing has been corrected. And I think that from now on, we won't be having issues. The governor will present his budget, maybe appropriation supplementary or whatever it is, to the State Assembly led by Martins Amehule and the full House. Yeah. And then they will do the needful. And of course, they know they don't.
Yeah, Madam Obiaroko, they say government is a continuum, but what we saw in River State, governance stopped. But we need to ask questions. Yeah. A budget of 1.485 trillion naira was approved for the sole administrator. A lot of people expected, and I believe funds were also released. A lot of people expected to see, projects started by similar Fubara either being completed or at least work ongoing. Contractors should be paid to return to site, and people expected to see a lot because he presented his budget to the National Assembly. So he should also be held accountable. 1.485 trillion approved by the Senate. But for 6 months, nothing happened in River State. And also using the state of emergency. In this case, they say using the state of emergency, to say that it's because there's a state of emergency, that is why everything was on standstill. That does not justify it, because his budget was approved, and this approval was not just for paying salaries.
Well, Femi, I can remember clearly that even the budget presentation was not done immediately he came into office. It took quite some time. There were back and forth, even with the National Assembly. It wasn't easy to get it passed and approved. And again, I'm not going to sit here and, begin to say that 1.45 trillion was released and then nothing happened. I do not want to believe that the president will be so careless, to release that, because he was overseen. He's actually running the state, because the state the sole administrator was just his agent. Let me put it like that. So there's no way the president would have allowed that kind of money to go down the drain. And let me also tell you, even when budgets are passed, when there's a democratic structure, when there's a sitting governor, it does not necessarily mean that the money, the figures you see, have been released or have been generated. Don't forget, some are going to be coming from federal allocation, some will come from IGR. Now, the important thing is for us to see the records of the man. Let's see the notes, his handover notes, and see what he did, how much he received, and how much he was able to expend, and then what is left for the governor to start off with. So until that is done, before we now run into conclusions, I do not want to subscribe to the fact that the man came there and for 6 months or whatever, he spent 1.something trillion and then he will walk away like that. Things don't work like that. If he did that, of course, he's going to account for it. The laws are clear and he will be held accountable and responsible. And like I said, the president appointed him, the president presented the budget on his behalf, and then if the National Assembly approved it, and this money was released through the Ministry of Finance, it is also the responsibility of the president to ensure that the money was utilized well. If it was not, well, we have the president to call out to ask questions. It's not just about the sole administrator. The president may be here to tell us what exactly he knows that went wrong, because he was, like you normally have the supervising president or supervising minister or whatever. In this case, he is the supervising governor, as it were, as of the sole administrator. So I do not want to just jump into conclusions, because people are always in a hurry to banter words and throw figures around without having any proof, to what they say. Any claims we make, we must be able to come up with figures, facts and figures, present it to the public, and we can look at it. So until that happens, when the governor sits down, looks at the books, and then tells us, because we're going to ask questions, and he comes out to say, yes, money was spent, this is how much of the state received. Or when he begins to ask for more funds, we will now ask questions, what happened to the money that the sole administrator left? So these are issues we are going to be looking at probably when the governor settles down and the state assembly. Don't forget, the state assembly has a role to play too. They cannot just sit down and fold their hands and allow this kind of money to be frittered. So we are going to call them to question, to ask why and what happened. So until that is done, I want to leave it at that, believing that being a disciplined military officer, he shouldn't, go the way and the path of some politicians do. So that's it for me.
All right, we also saw local government elections in Rivers State. A lot of people are arguing about the legality of it. But, well, the elections have come and gone. The winners have been sworn in. APC winning 20 out of 23 local councils there in Rivers State. People are saying this puts similar Fubara in a tight corner, because we didn't even see him making any input or even coming out to campaign for whichever party, maybe the PDP, the APC. It's even hard to tell which party he belongs to right now. But this boxes him in a corner, and they say to an extent gives Nyesom Wike an advantage. How do we expect a governor to govern when it appears he doesn't pull the strings? Or he doesn't control the levers of power?
The truth is that, the truth is this. They had issues. We heard of the reconciliation. We do not know the terms. We do not know the details. But if the governor didn't speak up, even when the RISEC made the announcement that they were going to go into that election and he didn't speak, well, it means that whatever arrangement put in place went down well with him. But we cannot be crying more than the bereaved. I mean, he's in a position, he's a leader, he's a governor elected by the people. He should be in a position to stand his ground to say, no, this does not go down well with me and the people of Rivers State. And then, of course, there's always a way out. It's either you challenge it in the law courts or you can decide to take a walk, if it doesn't suit you. But I'm not looking at it. I think he understands that what is more important is not his own interest, but the interest of the state. Now, let me tell you, there's nowhere election will be conducted that people will not challenge it, talk about legality and illegality. Even the election of Mr. President is still being talked about today by the opposition, who say he lost the election and some other person won the election. So are we going to be looking at that? We should be looking at what the law provides. And that, of course, leads us to the electoral reforms we're talking about. When we're talking about the autonomy of the state assembly, we talk about the electoral reforms giving power, not just, to INEC to conduct election. We should also look at the state independent electorate. What happened in Rivers State is not different from what happened in the 36 states local government elections. So people have the right to disagree. And then, of course, like what you said, if that doesn't give him, if he cannot control, what are we even talking about control? The law is very clear. The local government is a separate entity. It's a separate arm of government. And they should function, their funds should go to them, and they should be able to do what they are called to do. And the only arm of government that has the power to look into their books, to question them, is the legislature, not even the executive. So the governor doesn't really have any reason to begin to say he wants to meddle with what the local government chairmen are doing. It is the assembly, and if it doesn't go down well with them, if they do well, it's the assembly. If they don't do well, it's also the assembly. So I think that the important thing is that we've come to a point where the state can actually move forward and be like other states in terms of democracy being restored in the state. Then whatever that comes, we're going to take it from there. When they get to that bridge, they will definitely cross it. And like I said, the governor is still a member of the PDP. And if APC won more local governments than the PDP, don't forget that even while he was there as governor, he conducted the election. There's a party called APP that won 22 local government seats, and then APC got only one. Even his political party, the PDP, didn't even get one. So I think that even the PDP managed, and they fared better this time around. Whatever be the internal arrangement they have, that's there. But don't forget that the Supreme Court has said time without number that these things are internal affairs of the party. Who are those elected? Are they not Rivers people? Are they not qualified to be there? That's the bottom line. That you didn't win or somebody you wanted didn't win does not mean that a stranger is there. The important thing is that elections have been conducted, and those who want to challenge it,
this is politics. This is politics, Every politician would want their party to have control. But let me let you catch your breath. We'll take a quick break. Woko Undukwe, President Citizens Quest for Truth Initiative, is still my guest. We're discussing the return of Similaye Fubara as governor of Rivers State after the 6 months suspension. Yes, madam, we're talking about, the whole legality, controversy, debate, and all of that generated by these 6 months suspension. You also talked about the reconciliation, but I would like you to be honest. Can there be true reconciliation, especially among politicians with vested interests?
But Femi, I've always said this in your studio anytime you invite me to speak on these issues. I've told you, it's a matter of interest. It's not a matter of, there's no enmity, no permanent friendship, no permanent enmity. It's interest. Once your interest is protected, that's the most important thing. What makes you a leader is your ability to hold the structure on ground. That is it. So every leader is striving for that. Even those in opposition are also fighting. Even while Similaye was even there and they had issues with Wike and his group, there were also some other leaders on the other side who now danced to his side and were supporting him because they wanted to also seize that opportunity to also, grab a hold of power in the state. So in all sincerity, I want to say it without bias, without any favor or any foe, there can be that kind of, it's something that you go and have at the back of your mind, this is what I'm coming for. If you're coming to play politics in Nigeria or maybe Africa, I don't know about the rest of the world, but even America, we're also seeing that happen. If you don't have this at the back of your mind, that you are coming to fight for the interests which you represent, then forget it, it won't work. You will lose, even if you're the best candidate. I told you it happened to me. I was the best candidate then, but they said because I was in the wrong party. So the people who would have supported me, who knew I was the best candidate, supported a lesser candidate. They didn't care. The important thing is for them to have their own interest protected. So that's how it's been in politics. But I think that Africa can do better. Even with the call for the electoral reforms, it will not change more. But
yes, indeed. We looking at the whole thing that played out. Some people say it appears to favor Wike's camp more because we also saw the reconciliation, especially that meeting with President Bola Tinubu. Wike was there with his men, the people on his side. But Fubara was there all alone. A lot of people that are also in the Fubara camp or that used to be in the Fubara camp seem to have all gone on the ground, and it appears as if Nyesom Wike now is having the upper hand, and it really does not matter if Siminalayi Fubara is the governor of Rivers State. Critics say he will have to dance to the man who plays the piper.
I still do not want to subscribe to that because whether you like it or not, he is the governor and he's the one that has what we call the red pen or the power, and nobody also knows. Let me also tell you, critics who are speaking have not also told you that some persons are also entertaining fear that if he comes, he may continue on the path, he may continue to fight. So let's not, begin to make some of those declarations that we are not sure of. And then for the meeting, don't forget that it wasn't the president that, called for that meeting. It was not as his instance. The parties involved sought the president's intervention. And of course, he let the cards down and they chose and accepted. So the meeting, the invitation to the villa for that meeting, don't forget that Fubara has been part and parcel of that team. So when people say Wike's faction, is Fubara not part of Wike's faction? He is part of Wike's faction. Those who wanted to own Fubara were never part of that. They never supported his emergence. They never supported his election. And so what he did is just like going back home to where he belongs. Well, like I said, if he's not comfortable with whatever, there's still an option for him. There's a way he can decide to take a walk, or he can also decide to fight on. And then whoever wins, well, that's their own business. So for me, it is what he has accepted to do. And if it's okay by him, that's fine. The important thing is what he's going to do within the short period that he has for the state. He can actually make carve a niche for himself within the short period. We are seeing some governors, even in the Southeast, where we never expected. So states like Abia, that there was never good governance. Today, we are seeing the impact that the governor is doing within a short period of time. Fubara can even do better because he even has more allocation, more IGR, and more money. So, it's okay. We'll look at it and then see. We pray it doesn't degenerate to that level where they start fighting again. But I think that he also, like I said, he has learned his lessons, the others have learned. Don't forget that during the period, the course of this reconciliation, a lot of meetings were held, and he now probably knows those who misled him, those who led him on the path of this infamy, and those who didn't give him the right advice. And I'm sure he's going to shut them out this time around and focus. And then Wike, on his part, also, it was not easy for him sustaining the structure, sustaining the fight. So, and I do not see him wanting to go that route again. So he's going to allow the governor to govern. And like I said, whether you are elected as local government chairman or commissioner, or you are appointed or whatever, it's still part of the same family. So those who do not have any business should find themselves in the opposition, ADC, ADA, whatever party, and fight to see how they can knock off PDP from the state. Like you said, APC has taken more. Some persons say Fubara may end up going to APC because APC won more.
I was actually coming there.
We didn't also talk about that. So it all depends. It's all politics.
It's all politics, and we're looking at political correctness here in a state where majority of the local government structures are controlled by, or is controlled by the APC. 20 out of 23 local councils are controlled by the APC. Majority, more than 70% or 80% of the House of Assembly members are also controlled, are also within the APC fold. For a governor who is, for now, still a member of the PDP, what will be politically correct for him to do? And don't forget also, Nyesom Wike is still a member of the PDP.
Well, if you ask me, there's nothing like political correctness. I mean, it doesn't exist in our climate. What is politically correct is when you get power, you hold on to power, and then use it for whatever you want. That's the definition of political. In some states where they even have opposition assembly and opposition whatever, you can see them working very well with the government, because sometimes you need some of these approvals to come. Until you have a strong assembly, we even had close to that in River State under Martin Amehule, who tried to oppose the governor. And of course, people are called for their heads, in opposing the governor. So now that they are all one, I think that they will work better. That should be the political correctness we are looking at. If the governor has the ambition to become a leader in the state where he controls the party and the structure, he will need to, keep doing what he was doing and maybe fighting more. But again, who wants to go that route, knowing that consequences of this thing may not be? Don't forget, the assembly, he has majority of them are on this side, and it doesn't take anything to call for impeachment. But again, I do not see them going that route again, because I mean, it has cost everybody so much. Even the assembly have not been able to fulfill their mandate, their constitutional constituency projects and the rest of them, and then also helping the state to move forward. So I think that for now, in the next couple of 6 months or so, we are going to see a steady run. They will be able to do what they were called to do. And I do not want to go through that route of any negativity, any negative energy now.
Well, indeed,
let's see and pray and hope that they do that. If he wants to be the leader in the state, he can actually do so. He knows what to do. It's not different from what some other governors are doing in other states.
Well, indeed, we all look forward to unpacking all that is happening in Rivers State with the return of Similaye Fubara. Everyone hopes for peace in that state. Well, I must thank you very much, Obiaruko Undukwe, President, Citizens Quest for Truth Initiative. Thank you so much for your time on the program. You can